We are here, we are serious, and we are open for business.
Ambassador Susan Johnson Cook launching the first Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce. Better known as Ambassador Sujay, she was the first African American to hold the position of U.S. Ambassador for Religious Freedom. Now she's leading the charge to elevate black women in business. She not only has a legacy of leadership globally, but establishing successful businesses is in her blood.
I'm a third generation Black woman business owner. My mother and my mother's mother were Black women business owners. And at this stage in life, after much success in the government world and the diplomatic world, in the church world as a pastor, I wanted to talk about legacy. I was at the Clinton Global Initiative years ago because I worked for President Clinton and President Obama. And so after we came out of office, there was this big initiative that President Clinton had. He has it the same week as the UN General Assembly in New York. And like 1,500 heads of states come in. And the genesis is that if you have, then you share with someone who's up and coming. And that's how we all get ahead. So I was at a table in one of the breakout sessions, and a young Caucasian lady had her back to me. She was about 21 years old, the age of my kids at the time. And she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I have to get off the phone. But my family foundation just gave $1 million to support one of President Clinton's initiatives in Africa." And I just said at that point, my kids were getting ready to go to college. I said, we teach our children to work for the nonprofit and ask for the check. They teach their children to found a business or a foundation and you write the check. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to be in a position to write the check so you can be philanthropic and you can help not only your family, but our community. And so this is a lifelong dream so that your life will never be the same again.
Even before officially launching the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce, Ambassador Sujay was able to orchestrate a powerful partnership, leading to 25 of her founding members becoming distributors of PPE.
You know, the Fortune 500 companies about a year ago made a commitment publicly that they wanted to help Black businesses and Black business owners. Well, we're providing the capital, we're providing the resources, the people who can do that.
We partnered together with a corporate body, the Empowering a Billion Women, who said, let's come together. Let's create 25 new Black women-owned distributorships. So in the midst of COVID, we have been creating.
So we met with Ingrid Vandervelt and the EBW, which stands for Empowering a Billion Women. EBW Cares. She had been an entrepreneur with Dell, and she had had access to places many of us had not had access to, but she was willing to share it. And so we formed what's called She for PPE. She said, you find me 25 Black women, I will provide not only money for the chamber, but I will do the training for free. I will also set them up. There'll be no fees for them to start their distributorship. So we will set them up. And so their first business opportunity will be sponsored by us.
I used to be the entrepreneur in residence of Dell Technologies. And what's always going through my mind is, okay, budget, right? And I'm like, I'm not Dell Technologies, but I have something. We can do something and we can get creative and we can show that as we grow together and as we close the wealth gap together and we invest and apply our resources, our time, our energy, our resources to doing the things that are important, again, locking arms together and saying, how can we together thrive and succeed and move forward? And it was out of that conversation that all of this and these 25 women, these new EBW Cares distributors was birthed.
Basically what we did was we set some women up on their feet so that they didn't have to start from zero, not knowing the business, not knowing anything. And so we now have 25 Black women-owned distributorships of PPE equipment.
And how many, just show us by your hands, have gone through the training, will continue to go through that. So we call it She for PPE. There's so many cities and states that need PPE equipment now. Well, now you can buy your PPE from a She. And one of the She's is part of the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce.
We were actually birthed in COVID. And so in 9 months, which is the time that it has a woman gives birth, we saw birth of an organization. We were organized literally and incorporated on February 20th of 2020. 2020, the week before they announced that COVID really was serious and we better take it seriously. And so we were incorporated, and so we had to build an infrastructure. And literally in 90 days, between July 7th and October 1st, we found 90 women coming to join this chamber. So we saw there was a need, we saw there was an excitement. And so to be part of that has been amazing for me. We can provide resources, opportunities, and networking, the Ron principle. And so who are we? We are a collective, a consortium of Black women business owners who create businesses, connect them, collaborate with, sustain, and scale. And that's what we hope will happen for everyone who comes into our watch. And it's been amazing to see the excitement from college students who are recent graduates who said, I have this business idea, and so I want mentoring. I want to see examples of good business women, to those who are conglomerate owners and who have been at it for 29 and 30 years, who are able to get the big government contracts.
Ambassador Sujay not only promotes business, but she is also the owner of Charisma Speakers, the only global professional speakers bureau owned by a Black woman. You can also hear from her weekly on Wednesdays at noon during the streaming of Live with Sujay. Her accomplishments are monumental, but they didn't come without hard work.
President Obama and Secretary Clinton appointed me as the first female and first faith leader, U.S. ambassador at large for international religious freedom. And so what that meant is I had to be Senate confirmed. So I had to learn the business of confirmation. And then I had to live in Washington, and I traveled all over the world representing the President of the United States and the Secretary of State. It was a position where I had 199 countries in my portfolio. So it meant if I could not get to the country, then I had to have the diplomatic engagement on this side of the country. And, you know, in Washington, there are many embassies. But I had to learn the business aspect of diplomacy. It is, you're trained for it. You're trained for how do you engage on the other side of the waters. You sit with business leaders as well as diplomats. And while I was traveling, when we had off time or downtime, I sat with business leaders. One of the ways that I was prepared for that was I was a White House fellow. And that's a wonderful way for young people who are between like 25 and 35 to really get into the executive level of government. It's a competitive position, but if you're selected, you're sitting down with the world's greatest business leaders ever told. At lunch, you're having business conversations. And what they do in terms of the year-long effort is they put you in business settings and they put you in diplomatic settings that are, you know, pretense, but they want to see how you would carry yourself if you're representing the President of the United States. And it was a businesswoman who prepared me for every scenario. She said, what pearls are you going to wear? What earrings are you going to wear? What clothes are you going to wear? How will you sit in this scenario? And every single thing she prepared me for was what they asked. But they wanted to see in a business setting, how would you carry yourself if you're representing the president? Well, years later, I become a U.S. ambassador. I am representing the president, the first Black president of the United States of America. You have to know protocol, you have to know business, the business of diplomacy. How do you act? With whom do you interact? When do you speak? When do you not speak? Who are the principles? Because I was a pastor did not mean, before I came into government, did not mean they were looking for my opinion as a pastor. So I needed to know the business of diplomacy, which meant I had to sit with people who had been doing it for years to train me on what to do and how to carry myself. That is exactly the concept that we're passing on to the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce. These are scenarios that you may face in business. How are you prepared so when you walk in the room, you appear to be the smartest one in the room? How do you carry yourself? What do you wear? And now that it's virtual, how do you interact on a Zoom? What do you wear? Just because it's Zoom doesn't mean you come out in your pajamas. How do you present yourself to the public? All of that is business, and you get that from people who've already walked that walk, and then you're giving examples and your life experiences to others who have not walked in your shoes. I will never be a millennial, so there's some things they can teach me. They will never be a boomer right now. So there's some things from my life experiences that I can teach them. And when we put those together in business, we have winners.
For Ambassador Sujay, the vision for the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce extends far beyond business, but for the state of Black women around the world.
The State of Black Women Summit is a 4-part series that will begin on Friday, December 4th from 3 to 5 p.m. It will be a virtual summit that will bring together the best and the brightest of Black minds in business. We're not going to just talk about steps to business, but like the business of show business, the business of politics, the season that we've been in. There have been people behind the scenes that have been running operations. What is the business of politics? What is the business, we call it where the big money is. How do you get a government contract? Okay, it's good to be certified, but who gives you access? What are the steps to getting your sam.gov, to getting your CAGE, to getting your NISC codes? Who teaches you that unless it's somebody who's been through that? So we're going to have 4 segments, and there's an opportunity for ads and infomercials in between the segments, but we're going to talk to people about the business of business, people who are in the business of caring, like Susan Taylor, who has a CARES mentoring program for young people. What is the business mindset for every operation that you're doing? We don't just throw it together because it sounds good and it looks good. There's work behind the work. And so we want people to be able to have foundations that are strong so that they can grow on a strong foundation. So we're going to have the first of this 4-part series on December 4th, 4 20-minute segments, question and answers, interviews, and then there'll be opportunities at some of them for breakout sessions. And we know we can't get everything in the first session and not everything in the second session, but throughout the 4-part series, you will hear from some of the women who you don't see on the front line because they're running their businesses and they're running their businesses globally. You will hear from African women leaders who are business leaders. You'll hear from Caribbean women who are doing business. And we're going to have some surprises. We have people who are living in Asia and in other parts of the world, particularly London and Europe, who will be bringing their business insight. How do we collaborate if we don't know with whom to collaborate? So this is the first of a virtual, which helps us to be visible and so that we can be viable in our businesses.